Okay, so new day. I sort of have a game plan what I'm doing. Well, I know what I'm doing for powertrain. Front suspension and rear suspension. I'm thinking the game plan now is 8/8. If everything works out well, I'm going to try a Jaguar front clip. I've never done that before, so this should be fun. But first things first, we got to get this motor out. This is, I don't know, this motor's stuck. I'm not even going to try because, well, I have another one that I could use. I'll strip parts off it, like good stuff, like the carburetor, things like that. I don't even know if it's good, but I'll strip that off anyways. And then, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it won't be in here, let's put it that way. So the plan is to get this out. I'm going to unbolt the front clip because at this point I'm leaving the front frame rails on. And I'm probably going to cut the steering column because I want the steering to stay stock looking. So I want to keep the original steering column, but I'm going to modify it to work with the rack that's on the Jag. At least that's the plan. If that changes, I'm not sure. Oh, cruddy. Okay, so the temp gauge isn't going to work. These never unscrew. Oil gauge will. That's mechanical. That's no biggie. But that never works out well. And then it's not long enough to reach anything. So we'll have to deal with that. But, I don't know. Let's start with the disassembly. I know you're waiting for me to finish. We're still waiting for the diff to get done. So the diff's done, then I got to do the steering, or sorry, the throttle, air filter, just a couple little things, and then yeah, this one's like ready to boogie. But till then, we're going to start dismantling this thing. So I have it up. I'm carrying on with like disconnecting all my stuff that I don't need. I'm going to drop the cross member because whatever this K-frame or whatever they call this, it's like usable, but usually with the transmission it never works. So like you can never fit the transmission through the tunnel hub and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut them off the sides. I'll make new removable pieces for the transmission after. That said, my plan to drop everything is out the bottom. So I'm going to cut this brace. I'm just going to put a strap across for now to hold it. Up here, I'm going to unbolt or hack out the original motor mounts. I don't know which I'm going to do. One or the other. I mean, stuff's got to get unbolted, so I'll probably unbolt it, see if I can pop it, take the motor down with the cross member, and then let the transmission hit the floor. Well, not from there, but we'll set her down to do that first. And then continue unbolting the front clip, and then yeah, if everything goes well, I should be able to set the car down and then lift the body off the motor transmission. The diff will be the only thing next. I've already like started to cut away at the e-brake stuff because it ties into the torque tube for the spring return. Some of it might be usable, but like the arm to do the push pulling, it's totally for sure going to be in the way. It always is. So I'll have to come up with a different handle system for the emergency brakes. And then we get to the rear. There's no way I'm going to be reusing any of these U-bolts, so I'm probably just going to cut them all. And then get the shocks unbolted. And then that way I can get this diff out. I should pickle the fuel tank right now because there's a good chance it's no good. So I got to go through that, check it, Although it is a nice deep tank. I could maybe modify that thing to run like a truck pump or something like that, like an in-tank pump. That said, I do have an external pump, so I got two options I bought for the car. I didn't know which way I was going. Personally, I could probably just stick the outside pump and call it a day. It's not a big deal. But I did buy like a, I don't know what they call it. I think it's from like a Hellcat or something. So I have one external pump, and then I have an internal pump, depending which way I want to go. Either way, both pumps are supposed to be able to support 600 horse or something like that, so we should have more than enough for what we're building. Alright, getting close. Just going to cut that e-brake handle because it's going to be in the way of this motor coming out. Actually, even that whole bracket, I'm just going to cut that whole schwank off so everything can drop straight down. That's the plan. So I'm going to torch that. I'm going to torch these couple bolts, and then I should only have like 4 or 5 bolts around to get at, and then I should be able to just lift the body off. I don't know why that's funny, but it is. You hot, buddy? Hmm? You hot? Alright, so there's our front end, to which something is going to get this used on it at some point. And with that said, does anybody know of a rack opinion that would actually work with this? Because then this would be a minty clip for stuff. I'd have a few of these. Anyways. So the motor trans are dropped. I'm going to drag this all out, and then I'll have to cut these U-bolts, get the rear diff out, and then we're singing. We're halfway there. So anyways, that's where we're at with that. I got to see how this other clip works, and then we'll figure that out after that. All right, well, Pablo and I are on our way to pick up a Jaguar. I think it's an XJ6, right? I don't know. Anyways, like a mid-80s Jaguar. Basically all I want is the clip off of it, so hopefully this all works out. Alright guys, so this is it. I don't know what's involved to take this off yet. And I've never really seen underneath it at this point, as from when we were trying to load it, the diff decided it didn't want to be a part of the car anymore. So it kind of left the building and wanted to fold under it, so we basically had to cut it off and then just drag it on. So I think there's like just a couple bolts in the steering, but I think the motor is attached to it and stuff like that too. So I don't know anything about these. This doesn't interest me. This would look good like in some weird little Indy car, I guess, but it's got the weird whatever with the side drafts on it. But anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my loader and lift this up so I can at least get the forks underneath it. I can lift it up and then I can see what's happening in the front. So let's do that and then we can get a better look at stuff. Well, you wouldn't think it, but this is a pretty heavy car. So we got one big old bolt up here and here, which then spins around to the rack, which is just bolted back here. So I think somewhere around here the motor must bolt down too yet. Oh, she's just crunchy under here. No, that is definitely a weird transmission, that's for sure. Park her out in my little spot in the yard in case I ever need that again. I I know where it is. Well, that is the front end out. Sure is not held in by a lot, I'll tell you that. I just got one goofy steering joint. Man alive, look at this thing. How weird is that? I mean, if it works, whatever. But it had a rubber mount in the back. I unbolted it, and then it just had the 2 bolts in the front. So it's really not that complicated. One mount was bunk, and I undid the other one, ratchet strapped the motor up. The only thing that got me screwed up was I didn't realize the shocks don't have a mount. I'll have to make something for those. So, anywho, let's give that a sweep, push it under, and see how well this works. A lot of people recommended this, so let's give it a shot. So, I've gone through all that work, and I'm very mixed on the results here. Like the clip has to go over. Like I can clean it up, and that's just gonna work. But it's like the rack is like the wheel's not centered yet or anything, so I guess that'll change things. But it's pretty darn close to centered, or at least where this wheel should be. It should just be out more. But I know a lot of people, well, they say the Jag clips are the way to go, but if I look there, I'm gonna have to do some modifying to get my U-joints and stuff past my frame, so I'm gonna have to cut the frame up. Because this still has to go over like a couple inches, which will totally put the rack into the frame rail. So, I don't know, like it'll be a good clip for something, but I just don't think it's gonna be this truck or this car. There's just too much weirdness going on. Look, like that wheel's like out there, so you can tell how much it's got to go over. But I'm like, the amount of messing around I'm probably gonna have to do, this just didn't pop in as easy as I thought. Because that said, have a really bad feeling that, or I should say, I probably would be faster to clip this with an S10 than it will be by the time I modify, do all this. Because I think with all the effort I put in already, just taking it out, picking it up, doing all this stuff, I could have had an S10 clip in here already. That's kind of unfortunate, but you never know. You don't know till you try, right? That said, I got a clip I can use for something here. So I think I'm going back to the drawing board, and I'm just going to hack the front of the rails off and graft an S10 in. It'll involve a bunch of cutting around here for the steering box, redoing the front rad cradle, things like that. But whatever, fellas got to do what you got to do, right? So I think that's going to be like either tomorrow or the next day's plan, because it's a little late and hot, and I'm just gonna sit and veg in the house here, I think, because I think I spent way too much time on this. Oh well, lesson learned. Never use one. I could make it work, but I feel the amount of effort isn't worth it. We'll see. I'll clean this up a bit. I'll play with it a little more, but I don't think so, because it's just going to mess up all my plans. I wanted to keep the stock column. I basically wanted to cut the column down here so I can put a bearing in, but that'll leave like the neutral safety and the gear selector. I can use all of it, so just look factory inside the car. That's really the plan I was going for, and it is not going to happen with that thing. No biggie. Tomorrow's another day, so we'll see. Till tomorrow. Well, I am definitely mixed. Look at that thing, eh? Doesn't that look nice? Look how that crossmember fits. Like, just minty. Very little. I think I have to do a little bit of work, some trimming. Actually, it would probably sit square. It's because I haven't pulled the sway bar off this thing yet. And you can see that mount is hitting my sway bar mount. But the wheel's like, it's got to go ahead a bit, but the rack is the only bugger. But I'm wondering if I can get a different rack or a manual rack. Like, oh, this is just a killer setup. You could technically bolt it back in because it sits on the original motor mounts. Yeah, it's a very interesting setup. It's going to screw around with this, but I might play with this some more. It's just really hot today. And I just needed it to sit underneath there so it looks like a roller again. Well, I'm glad I kept playing with this because this is starting to look better and better the more a fella screws around with it. It's not going to be as bad as I thought up in the front. I mean, it's still going to screw up my steering column plans, but we can work around that. That's not a biggie. Yeah, because it's going to end up being like one wobble joint up. It'll be like rear steer on a Camaro, really. Right now I can't get the rack quite in place because it's hitting the bolt for the steering box. So I might have to just cut the column quick. Then I can unbolt this box and kind of flop it out of there. Get a better feel where the rack has to go. I guess if a fella had to move the rack a slight bit, I don't think it would affect your steering as long as it's staying in the same position. But once it goes back up and in place, like, it should be pretty dang close. If a feller has to notch the frame, it's going to be a very, very slight notch up on the top there. Yeah, I don't know. And then mounting it is like, I don't know, I haven't even gave it that much thought. I could re-drill and bolt the back like original. And then in the front, you can see I pulled the sway bar off, and then right, oh, maybe you can't see. Give me my light here. All my lights are broken, so I'm waiting for some of my new ones to come in. But if you look up in the front, you can see the one bolt for the sway bar was. See how the other mount is just like hanging there? So the fella could build off of this frame a mount to actually just bolt that sucker back in. So it seems pretty straight up. Not a terrible thing. I guess what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut that box, steering shaft, everything there, and then unbolt the steering box, and then we'll see where we're at with this stuff. Alright, so I've been farting around with it a little bit. I'm pretty happy that I've actually stuck with it and tried to mess around with this some more, because it's getting better. Like, I'm happier the turnout here.
Doesn't look like it's going to be too crazy to mount. I've pushed the clip a little bit more ahead, so I have a little more room here. The only thing I'm going to do different is I might change this mount, like so I can tilt the rack up some more, because if you see the angle from there to the steering column, I'm just going to like totally max out a U-joint like in no time. So if I can tilt this up, I may have to do a little notch in the top of the frame, but at least then this is a more up. This will come at an angle and a little more natural. Like you kind of have to find a happy medium between two U-joints in there. That said, I have the stock Jag one down there. I may use it, or I may try to find a wobble that fits on there, and on the top I can just go to like a 3/4 inch rod, like a 3/4. So I'll have to figure that out. Not a big deal though. But overall, that fits pretty nice. I guess in the camera it looks like I got to push too far forward. It's kind of hit and miss. I'm always mixed on these wheel well spiels. I think it looks fine. I think that's where it should be. Which, if you look at the mount in the front, it pushes it like right in the middle of where the original sway bar link was. So, pretty cool. These are kind of neat. They're actually really cheap to rebuild, like the front end. Like this one will need some, I'll probably just do all the upper lower control arm bushings and stuff, because everything is so cheap for these things. Like brake pads are cheap, yeah, I don't know, whatever. I'm surprised how easily the parts are available for them. So, and with that said, how nicely it goes in. So like you can pretty much bolt this into a car. I'll probably, with the control arm, stick away from the frame. So I'm probably going to weld them, you know, like add a bunch of extra strength and support. I have no interest in bagging this car, but I just want. Oh, just sweating. She's hot. She's a hot day again. Cool. Well, I haven't dug out my 8.8, so I don't know anything there. I should do that later tonight. I'll do that. I'll pull it out. Then I can grab that diff out. And then, well, it won't be yeah, I guess technically it's a roller if I kind of tack this clip in. If I tack it, then I can bust it loose later. Kind of the plan. But you can almost see where the original cross member, it bolted here. And I think it bolted here. I'm not sure what this last bolt was, unless that was one of them. But look how it sits on where like the motor mounts were. That's pretty wild. And then you can see it's pretty tight. I'll be able to tilt it up, but I think it's going to be starting to hit the frame. But it's going to be such a mild notch that I'm okay with that. So I'm going to keep sticking with this thing. And then I'm going to try to find a whole lot of these Jag clips just to have in stock. All right. Till tonight, till it cools off a little more. Cool. So, well, I have temporarily clamped my front end on. We got a few of them. But I am definitely liking this clip. There's a lot of stuff I will have to work around, but for the most part, I feel I'm going to bolt and weld it in. See how the rack, we actually do have some room. If you can see that or not, I don't know, but there's just enough room. The only thing I'm doing is I'm actually tilting the rack up a little bit, so that shouldn't affect anything. What I'll end up doing is I'll have the bottom mount where it's supposed to go, and I'm going to shim the upper one back some more. So should keep all the geometry, just tilting the angle of the rack more. I just have to confirm. I didn't actually look at the other car, so I got to see what angle this front stuff's supposed to be at. But now you have like really nice dual piston brakes, all that jazz. We'll have to figure out the lines, but they don't even look like anything complicated. They're just like a regular compression fitting, so like easy to make and probably to adapt over to the LS. I was looking at my brakes. I think I'm not even going to change this setup. Well, I'm going to get rid of the single pot. I'm going to gut it, and then I have a small power setup here to which I can build a bracket off the frame to do that. It's got a long rod on the front, so we should be able to slug that thing through. The only problem I'll see is that I'll put the, like if I do that all here, that's going to put the master like under my seat, to which there's a hump, so from under the car I can get at it pretty good, but I think there's ways to do a remote fill. I don't know, we'll figure that out later. I don't know if it's easier or not, but because I have all this stuff here, I'm just gonna gut this thing out. I'll change the throwout rod. It'll go to that thing. We should be good. Now I just gotta, basically all I'm gonna do now, and then call it a day, is just pull this diff out, and then I'll have to go grab my 8.8 and see where we're at. I have a bunch of other miscellaneous little projects that I'm doing right now, so yeah, I don't know. I'll have to pull a bunch of stuff off. Like I'm gonna change the gas pedal, there's no way I'm running that setup. But that's gotta go out. E-brake's gotta go out, because just I don't think I can make this setup work. It's just gonna sling into the motor. I know when you put the motors in the small blocks, we gotta carve all this out, so I'm sure I'm gonna have to do it with this car. I don't see why you wouldn't. I've never put an LS in one of these things, but there shouldn't be much different than a small block, so yeah, I got a game plan. The front end is semi, well, it fits. Let's leave it at that. Like I say, I'm gonna probably bolt cut and do everything. You can see how the towers hang off, so I'll probably make some brackets here, buzz it to there, just to add a whole bunch of rigidity to it. I'll figure stuff out from there. Cool. Anyways, I'm gonna cut that diff out, and I think that's where I'm gonna call this one. This is where we are at. So we got everything apart here, ready for our new diff, just about. I noticed the pin on this side, well, I shouldn't say I noticed, it was pretty obvious. The locating pin kind of rotted out here, so I'll have to put a new one in there. But I'm waiting on some lowering blocks and some new U-bolts, so that's what we're gonna do here. I don't know if I'm gonna go like 2 or 3. I think it's 3 inches is what I'm gonna drop it. Hopefully that all works out. And I don't have to focus on the front. Figure out a way to either get this thing all mounted up and get a parts list ordered there, get my Rock Auto shopping list going. Go over the front end and see what I need and don't need to buy. But we got this diff out. This I'm going to tape up and I'm going to put in stock. I don't know for sure, but I've heard the automatic cars had better gears in the manual, so this is a good switch over for an earlier 50s car that I'm running the stock powertrain. Gives you a little better gears, so we'll hang on to that. And yeah, so I'm not sure where I'm going to get next time here. But for now, that's where I'm going to leave her. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.